What do you got?
I think I can prove to a judge that both of these men had the mens rea.
What the hell is a mens rea?
It's a legal term the lawyers use. It just means the intention to commit a crime.
Okay, come on, let's go.
Mens rea?
Put the cuffs on him.
How could we have gotten mens rea? We take blood? Can you do it without taking blood? We both use condoms. How is this possible? I want to see a doctor. Can I have an independent blood test?
Money!
I feel sick.
What are you doing?
Mens rea! Oh! Oh! My God! No!
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're doing it with. Hi, it's me, Legal Vices. In case you don't know what's going on, nobody else is streaming this right at the moment. Nick has some things to do. He said he's going to be at least another hour, possibly more. So I just thought, hey, why not? Let's just stream this until Nick shows up, and then we'll turn it over to the Jedi Master, and then I can either join him or go to sleep, whatever happens. So yeah, Nick is home. Nick is ready. Nick is doing things. There's some things that he has to do, and then it'll be an hour or so, and he'll be here. So that's the long and short of it. Right now, what we know so far is the closing arguments were supposed to start right about now. Law and Crime has confirmed that Alec Murdoch has arrived at the courthouse. The jury still hasn't arrived from the crime scene. They went there to look at the kennels and around that immediate area. And I guess they're on their way back now. I thought the 11 o'clock start time was a little bit optimistic. 2 hours to drive there and back and get ready. Hey, Sniffer in Chief, first super chat. Thank you so much, Sniffer in Chief. Awesome. So yeah, again, I'm just going to do this until Nick shows up. Nick gets ready. I looked for Joe. Joe wasn't doing it. So I thought, what the hell? I may as well do it for them. I'm always down for the grift. I'm easy to please. All right. So we'll just see what happens until he gets here. We'll bring up, okay, right now they're talking. Let's see what the Lon Cuck is talking about at the moment. Because I just set this thing up here on the fly, had a little emergency stream locked and loaded. So here we go. They're just going over previous arguments, it looks like. So yeah, let's see what they be talking about. They were just talking about where's the bus a minute ago.
Path that night. So there are several pieces of evidence that I think will be critical to the state's case and that the jury will consider.
And Anjanette, they are going.
Well, that was an in-depth and insightful comment, wasn't it? There are several pieces of evidence that the jury will look at and consider. Well, duh. I mean, that's kind of their job, is to look at and consider various pieces of evidence. Well, we'll just have to see what's going on. I don't know. I'll just watch this. We'll talk here for a bit, and then we'll bring up the stream. Like I said, this is only a temporary thing. Yeah, there's only several pieces of evidence. There's not a ton of evidence. There's a few minor pieces of circumstantial evidence. The weapons, yeah. Too bad they can't look at the weapons. Too bad they can't look at the fingerprints. Too bad they can't look at the bloody clothes. Too bad they can't look at a variety of other things. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see what the closing arguments are. And they also said that Dick Harpootlian is not going to be giving the closing arguments. The other fine gentleman will be giving the closing arguments. And I just call him the other fine gentleman because for some reason I just drew a complete and utter blank on what his name is. Jim crap. I can't see. And the more I try to remember, the more I'm never going to remember it. It'll just Griffin. Yeah. Jim Griffin. Yeah. Just get the less I try to remember, the faster it'll come to me. Say, yep. Going to be Jim Griffin. Yeah. So there we go. It's like, it came back slowly. So there we go. We're just waiting. That's all we can do is wait. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on. Right now I started streaming another trial The state of Wisconsin versus Zachariah Anderson. He's been accused of being a jealous ex-boyfriend who stalked and murdered his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend. But again, like the Murdoch case here, there's no bloody clothes. There's not even a body in this case. There's no body. There's no DNA. There's no blood. There's no cameras showing him anywhere near the scene. So it's going to be a very, very interesting trial. But I get to do this because they didn't even get through the opening statements and the prosecution. This is a retrial, by the way. Last year, Zachariah Anderson's case went to trial. The prosecution gave their opening, the defense gave their opening, and then the defense moved for a mistrial because the prosecutor, the district attorney, did not turn over evidence that should have been turned over. So they got a mistrial. This is the retrial. And halfway through the defense's opening statements, the prosecutor, the district attorney, filed a motion for a mistrial. So this morning they're arguing the motion for the mistrial, essentially is what they're doing. And so they're not streaming the court this morning, so I don't have to do anything. And then the afternoon session, Ozzy Overlord's going to take it. So here I am, fortuitous that I just happen to have a little bit of free space with this new trial that's going on. And during today was a holiday. It's right now, it's 1 a.m. on Thursday morning here, and Wednesday was a holiday here, so I got to hang around at home, and I watched most of the cross-examination and direct witnesses, the statements that were given in this case yesterday, and I was quite frankly flabbergasted by it. Will you please cover the Lori Vallow Mormon mom murder trial in April? It's not going to be televised. So at this point, it's not being televised. A couple of days ago, several media outlets filed a petition to have it televised. And I don't think the judges ruled on that motion yet. But as it stands now, it's not going to be televised. Did you see the state of Wisconsin in the courtroom? No, I didn't see the state of Wisconsin in the courtroom. But the good thing about that case is the presiding judge is Bruce Schroeder, who oversaw the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. So that's pretty cool to see him back in the court again. We've got the district attorney. There's no Binger around. This is the district attorney himself that's trying this case. So it's Bruce Schroeder that's presiding at the trial, and Duncan, Idaho has just become a member of the Legal Vices members at the clean and sober level. Thank you so much for that. All right, and let's we got a couple super chats to get here through. Matthew Self says, since Joe isn't here, I'll give you the shekels instead. Give me all your shekels. I will take all the shekels. Flux Gay, I wanted to be the first. Sorry, Flux, you're number 3. But you're the first woman, so hey, there is that. And Rick Nikita says, from the ashes of the Sigilite, the hero was born. Yeah, well. I'm just a member of the tarnished today. So if he remembers the way to the courthouse, whatevs. I'm here now, Jeff. You can start the trial now. I'd love to start the trial, but they haven't started the trial. The bus has not arrived at the courthouse yet. This is currently what we're seeing. We'll be right back. So, yep, I would certainly like to get the closing statements underway, but we'll just have to wait for them. All right, I guess while we're waiting, we can go back and, yes, that is right. I will take the shekels because I am the alternate juror. Oh, wait, what happened? That changed my thing. Where did my alternate juror thing go? I'm not Laura Rax of the Sea today. All right, you'll have to change that here. That is unacceptable. Edit name and headline. Back to the original alternate juror. Boom. All right. Elena Stanzable says, I've been sent here by Nick. Well, I summoned you all here, laid down my summon sign, and you are all arriving in time. Thank you so much for that, Super Jed, by the way. All righty. So I guess while we're waiting, we can just go back and look at some of the highlights of yesterday. Is there anything in particular you wanted to watch from yesterday? Because I watched the cross-examination of the law partner, which I found to be just hilarious. The forensic pathologist, she was a bit odd, wasn't she? I mean, she was a bit odd the first time around, but Harpootlian got on her every loving, very last nerve. And of course, there was Phone Guy. Phone Guy was he made it worth it. I watched most of the bowl cut crime scene reconstruction guy, and of course, he was just silly. These prosecution witnesses are so incredibly underwhelming, and I don't get it. But hey, it's not my case, so I don't have to worry about it. Nick's the appetizer, Jeff is the whole meal. You probably have that backwards, but appreciate the sentiment. Legal Vices, where's the Fievel hat? The Fievel hat, that's my Polish sea captain's hat. That only comes out on Maritime Monday. All right, well, let's, while we're waiting and watching for the court to come back, we can either watch the Law and Cuck breakdown, or we can just kind of watch some of the old testimony. Just do a quick 1 in chat for old testimony, 2 for Law and Cuck breakdown. It's all up to you. Because I just don't have any preference. I'm just waiting for the court to start streaming. And just so you know what's going on here right now, this is the view we've got. 6, of course, Matthew Self. That helps a lot. Yeah, they're just talking heads. 1, 2. Well, looks like one's kind of sort of 1. Well, let's go back and make fun of the Secret Service cell phone guy. How does that sound? Yeah, alternate Jew roar is a little bit too much. We'll just stick with alternate juror, alternate Jew roar. All right, let's do this. Let's go over to Law and Crime. We'll start out with cell phone guy, then we'll go to crime scene reconstruction guy, just because he looks like a goof. And I'm so glad I don't look like a goof. I am the prime specimen of manhood, so nobody could ever say anything bad about my looks. All righty, then. There's 120,000 people watching Law and Crime right now, watching Talking Head guy just do a talking head thing. All right. Everybody's expecting the closing arguments today, but yeah, well, streamed 1 day ago, streamed 17 hours ago. There we go. That's the one we need. And there's cell phone guy. This guy was such a tool. All right. Okay, let's bring up Execution coming in with a super chat before we get going. Watch the motion to discredit the phone guy at 438.7. All right, well, we'll watch his testimony and then we'll watch the motion. I didn't watch the motion. So we'll do that. We'll watch his testimony. It was only like 15 minutes. And then we'll watch the motion at 4 hours, 38 minutes, and 7 seconds. So bring this on up, share screen. And for the, we'll talk about it in a bit. Let's see. All righty. Boom. All right, let's go with this goofball. People, like I said, I didn't watch this because it was such a short witness. I figured he couldn't do anything, but everybody was literally just sending me tweets and comments and emails saying to watch this. Oh, is that the way it's going to be, huh? All right, I've got way too many windows open here. Let's close down some of these windows. All right, boom. We'll close you down. There. And bring this one back up. Oh, there we go. That was great. Thanks. Just as I did. All right, we got our windows closed down, so we should be good now. That's what I thought. I'm going full Joe here. All right. Righto.
determine whether or not the raise to wake feature would always enable the screen to come on whenever the phone is thrown.
And Mr. Barber asked you several times about being an engineer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, this is near the end. We got
Did you hear anything out of Mr. Sturgis last week?
where is the beginning? Here's the beginning. So we'll watch this, then we'll watch the motion to discredit this guy. Once the testimony starts, they'll send some messages out.
Whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You with church, please be seated. State your full name for the record and spell last name, please.
I've got the 1,422 of you and only 460
Paul
likes.
McManigal,
Like
McManigal.
All right. Good afternoon. Sergeant McManigal, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you're employed at the Charleston County Sheriff's Office?
I am.
And you testified previously in this trial, correct?
Yes, I have.
Just briefly remind the jury exactly what topic you testified on earlier. Briefly, please.
I was tasked with redacting Alec Murdoch's cell phone records to remove any possible client-attorney privileged information.
All right. And during that testimony, you were not qualified as an expert, correct?
That is correct.
All right. But you have been qualified in previous trials.
Yes, I have.
And approximately how many times have you been qualified as an expert previously in other trials?
About 10.
10 times. Okay. And is that in cell phone forensics?
Part of it was about, for my notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 6 times of that was in cell phones forensics. The other was crime scene investigation.
Okay. All right. And just let's briefly go down as quick as you can. Let's go through your training experience in cell phone forensics, please.
Okay. I'm currently assigned to the United States Secret Service Cyber Fraud Task Force, which is where I received most of my training.
Secret Service.
I have been trained in basic computer evidence recovery, advanced computer forensics, oxygen forensic suite training, blacklight examiner, advanced mobile device examiner, Celebrite physical and logical examination, XRY certification training, Macintosh triage and imaging, Apple iDevice forensics, Celebrite advanced JTAG extraction, network intrusion response, vehicle forensics, digital video recorder evidence and recovery, ransomware investigation response training, and several other webinars.
At this time, state would seek to admit Sergeant McManigal as an expert in cell phone forensics.
Did any of that sound like a guy who can tell you about the engineering properties of a phone? Did any of that sound like anything other than software extraction to any of you? But yet he's being sworn as an expert on the engineering of this. Just doesn't make any sense. It's my Chewbacca defense. It doesn't make any sense.
Qualified.
Sergeant McManigal.
Qualified, Jason.
Last week, you were present when a gentleman named Micah Sturgis testified for the defense, correct?
That is correct.
And specifically, he testified about this feature in iPhone known as Wake.
Raise to wake.
Raise to wake, correct?
Yes,
sir. And briefly explain
We'd
to
like to
jury
subscribe
what that
always
function is and what it serves as in the cell phone, for the iPhone, excuse me.
Raise to wake is when the cell phone is laying down and you pick it up. It realizes that somebody's picking up the device and tries to assist by turning on.
I like how he talks about the phone like it's alive. It recognizes when it's picked up and it tries to assist you by turning itself on. Yeah.
On the display so that you could possibly unlock it with your face unlock.
All right. Or read a notification, possibly if there's a notification on the screen.
That's correct.
And so it's designed to turn on that screen when it thinks someone's picking up the phone to look at the screen, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And there's been previous testimony, I think, by Mr. Sturgis and other experts in this case that the iPhone, if the screen is off, it will not record an orientation change, correct?
If the screen is off, it will not record an orientation.
You agree with that opinion?
I agree, yes.
And you were asked after Mr. Sturgis' testimony to investigate a little bit more about this raise to wake feature, correct?
I was.
I don't know how many of you are trained in the scientific method. I don't know how many of you remember the scientific method, even if you're not trained in it. But as we go through this, does this sound like any sort of experimentation in a controlled environment, or does it sound like a drunken Harambe throwing his cell phone around his enclosure?
And specifically, as demonstrated with the jurors, the screen is going to turn on when the phone is picked up gently, correct?
That is correct.
Because the phone thinks it's being picked up to be looked at, correct?
That is correct.
You're asked to investigate with a test device whether that screen lights up every time a phone is picked up in a more violent fashion or quicker fashion, correct?
Correct. When the phone is picked up more aggressively or moved more aggressively, the device will not turn on the screen.
And that's because the way raise to wake feature is based off of what in the cell phone? What's telling it to wake up?
The accelerometer primarily.
Okay. And so the accelerometer is sensing motion, correct?
Correct.
And so if it senses a slight amount of motion, it's going to turn the screen on because it thinks someone.
Does he look like he knows what an accelerometer is? He did say something that sort of gives him an out with some of this. He said it's the accelerometer primarily that turns it on. There's some other things that turn it on, but and I don't know. I don't want to know what turns this dude on. But anyway, there's things that the other things that turn this on, and they're going to bring it up right near the end, which he just doesn't seem to have a clue about.
I was picking up to look at it, correct?
Can't lead the witness.
And so if the cell phone only detects a slight amount of motion, what does it do? What does the iPhone do?
So if the iPhone registers a slight amount of motion, it thinks it's being picked up, so it will turn on the screen. But if it's being picked up more aggressively, it won't. And that's a battery protection feature. If you had the iPhone in your pocket and you were jogging, you don't want the screen to stay on the whole time. So when the phone is moving more aggressively, the screen does not turn on.
Okay. And so you're asked to do some tests in your lab with a test device, correct?
That is correct. I obtained an iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is the same make and model as the phone that Maggie had.
All right. And what software version was on your test device?
The software that was on my device is iOS 14.8. The one that was on Maggie's was iOS 14.6. So the iOS that was on my device that I tested was slightly newer.
Okay. And did you perform?
So he didn't even have the same software on it. That's where we go wrong right out of the gate. When you're going to be doing an experiment on something, you want to have the exact same conditions, the same make, the same model, the same year, the same software. You want to have an identical situation because things change dramatically, potentially between upgrades. And there was, I think, 2 generations difference, he said, between the software he was using and the software that was on Maggie's phone. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Well, that's a big difference. Who knows what the updates between the 2 OSs were? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. All I know is, this was, I think, after they had the face recognition problem where it just wouldn't work in the dark. And people were having problems because they're trying to see their phone in the dark and it's not working. And it could have, I just don't know the difference myself. And the jury's not back in court yet either. You dimwit. I'm watching it. I'm smarter than that. I'm watching this here. I didn't really mean to call you a dimwit. I was just kind of being funny. So, and to execution says, speed it up, Dad. We're stalling for time. That's what we're doing. And if we go through this too quickly, well, guess what? We're going to run out of things to stall time with. So I should put it down to like 0.5 speed. That'd make everybody happy. But yeah, we're just doing this at normal speed so that we can kill sufficient time while we wait for the jury to come back. And Nova Amp $5. Thank you so much for the super chat. Could perform his experiment with your phone on camera since he didn't. Yeah. Nothing. And see, I can't do it because I went Samsung about 3 years ago and never looked back. But actually, today was the first day I really wish I had an iPhone so I could do what he did. So let's watch what Party Guy did here with his phone.
Perform a series of tests and with various motions and various throws with this phone to determine, and we're able to develop an opinion of when the screen might come on and when it might not.
Basis for the objection. Rule 5, this is an experiment form of evidence, actually something seized, and we have not been provided this. The objection is overruled. Rule 5 does not apply.
Thank you.
And it does, though, Judge.
So you did perform a number of tests, correct?
Yes, sir. Performed many tests over the weekend. I put pick it up and shake it, pick it up and throw it. I threw it off to my desk. I knocked it off of my desk. I tried to flip it end over end. I tried to throw it like a Frisbee. I did each one at least 10 to 20 times.
Good God. That's what he did. He sat. This guy gets paid, what, say $300 an hour to sit on his chair, eat a donut, and just toss his phone around the room. You like that? That's why, just the way he was describing this: pick it up, shake it, flip it end over end, drop it, Frisbee it. It just sounds like Harambe chucking a phone around his gorilla enclosure. I mean, this is just dumb. And that objection was the defense saying, we haven't seen a copy of this man's report or his findings, so we're objecting to it to come in. And the judge says, well, that's not a relevant thing. Not sure how that's not relevant, but hey, he's the judge. I'm not. So Andrew F., his job description is tosser. Exactly. Phones out for Harambe. All right. Yeah. So that's his highly scientific experiment. He's just flipping it off the desk, flipping it over, shaking it really hard, and all those other inappropriate things.
Okay. And were the results 100% conclusively? I mean, did the phone do the same thing every time?
No, not at all. Sometimes the screen would turn on. When I threw it, laying face up, and then the screen would turn on. But a lot of the times I would throw it and the screen would not turn on. It depends on how the accelerometer registered that movement.
Literally every sentence this guy says, we could stop and complain about it. So here he is. He's coming to give you an expert testimony that says, under these conditions, this happens. And now that one of the earliest things he says is you couldn't always duplicate the results. So what's the value in this? What's the value in this if you can't duplicate the results? That just sort of takes the entire scientific method thing right off the table. And this guy is literally just throwing a phone around the room and seeing what happens.
So based off of your test, is it your opinion that an iPhone of the same make and model as Maggie's could be thrown and the screen not turned on?
Can't lead the witness.
All right. Did you develop an opinion about whether the screen would turn on every time a phone was thrown?
If the phone is thrown, the screen does not always turn on. In my experimentation, I determined that when the phone is thrown more like a Frisbee, 9 out of 10 times, the screen does not turn on. The times that it did turn on most often was when I pick it up and tried to shake it, then the screen would come on briefly.
Okay. But 9 out of 10 times when you toss a phone like a Frisbee, the screen would not turn on. Correct?
That is correct.
See, here is where just this much knowledge of how iPhones work can lead you to understand some things. Yes, the accelerometer has a lot to do with it, the motion detector in the phone. But also a huge component of this is the light sensors. The light sensor is a huge part of this. It's face down. It knows. There I go again. I'm following him and sort of personifying the phone. The sensors can't detect that there's sunlight hitting it, so it doesn't need to come on. You flip it over in the sun, and the light sensors will say, hey, okay, we're looking in the sun now. We might want to turn on because someone might be looking at it. So it's a huge question. When he frisbeed it, did he frisbee it face down where there was no light hitting the face of it? Or was he doing it face up where there's motion plus light hitting it? We don't know. He's just saying 9 out of 10 times. Did he throw it 9 times face down and 1 time face up? We just don't know because we'll get to where he talks about not recording or doing anything or taking notes. This guy is just a dick, basically. He's a hack.
Not far from the same.
And literally that's the entire testimony. So the whole reason this guy was testifying was to say that when it was frisbeed out the car window across, and that's the thing, he did it around his office. He threw it around it's probably a tiny little cubicle somewhere in the bowels of the Secret Service building or wherever the hell he works. But he didn't throw it at speed across 2 lanes of highway into the weeds on the far side up a hill. Literally nothing this guy did in any way replicates anything that would have happened at the scene, for also one very important reason that's coming up later. What do I have to do to grift as an expert in court? Apparently hang out with the prosecutors here. And real quickly here, C. Suter says, thanks, Jeff. We can always count on you. Well, thank you, C. Suter, for that wonderful super chat. And an equally wonderful super chat by 1 cent. Brian Elliman. Not going to lie, I actually tried it the other day, and anytime it landed face up, the screen came on. Also, thanks for me, middle of the night stream. 3-year-old son kept me up all night, and you kept me entertained. Well, my pleasure. Thank you so much for the super chat. And Ben Faber, at what point can you really lay into the judge for bad rulings? You can't lay into the judge. That'll just get you contempt. It'll get bad things happening to you. But what you can do is appeal the verdicts. But again, as the old saying goes, appeals are for losers. And I think currently the success on appeal rate in criminal convictions is about 6%. So once you lose, there's a good chance you're going to keep on losing. I know there are appeals, but the damage is kind of already done. Exactly. That's what I should have just read the rest of that sentence before I started talking there. Well, let's see. This is when I streamed this earlier and was talking. I was just saying, this is crazy. This is ridiculous. This is the stupidest opening. Yeah, this is the stupidest direct examination I've ever heard. And everybody was saying, just wait till the cross-examination. And I had no idea how bad it could possibly get. But now I do. Hey, we've got almost 2,000 people in here and 1,000 likes. Thank you so much, guys.
Good afternoon.
When you performed these experiments, did you record them in any way?
I did not.
You didn't video record doing any of this?
I did not.
Did you consider video recording any of these experiments?
Actually, it never crossed my mind.
Jesus fucking hell. Here's the guy who knows he's going to be testifying in court. He knows that he's going to be called upon to give testimony and to give a report of what he saw and what his results were. Not only did he not take notes, he didn't videotape it. He didn't make any recordings. Why? Because the thought never even entered his mind to record this. It never crossed his mind that he may want to record this so that other people can see what he's done. That either means he's an absolute, clearly, whatever you think, that means he's not an expert. That's just stupid and ridiculous. No notes, no reports, no video, no recordings, nothing. So, he's just take the expert thing right off the table immediately. It either means he's stupid or it means he knew what he did was such a farce, such an absolute idiotic thing that he would be torn to shreds if you recorded it. One of those two. Oh, and by the way, this is just a shameless grift right here. Right now, I am 4 subscribers away from 35,000. So if any of the 2,000 of you that are here right now, if any of you have not subscribed, I would just be super happy if you would do that and bump me up over 35,000 subscribers. That was my goal, to get to 35,000 by Friday, and 3 more of you, and I'm there. So thank you very much for that. Let's get back to this guy here. This is insane.
You just did the experiments and then just sort of orally relay when you could have had a video to show us?
That is correct.
Hey, 35,001. Thank you, everybody. Keep going.
If you were going to throw a phone out from a moving vehicle, wouldn't you need to pick it up, to toss it?
Certainly.
And if I understand the previous testimony, when you pick it up, the screen comes on.
When you pick it up gently.
So if you pick it up to toss it out the window while you're driving, you got to pick it up. Is that correct?
Correct. And if you pick it up aggressively, it will not.
And again, what's the ratio of that? What does aggressively mean? Define your terms. How much force do you have to apply for it to be considered aggressive? I mean, let's say he's a right-handed man. It was thrown out the left window and into the weeds. So you have it on the seat next to you or whatever. Do you pick it up off the seat like and throw it out the window, or do you pick it up relatively gently from the seat? And if assuming it's on the right side, which I'm assuming that it would be on the passenger side seat, and you all envision this and tell me if and where I'm wrong. It would be on the passenger seat because that would be the most convenient, especially if you're going to chug it out the window. You pick it up off, and I would say gently. I mean, you don't just aggressively get this on the seat, motherfucker. You would raise it up, you would roll down your window, transfer it to your left hand, and then frisbee it out the window. You're not going to cross body this thing out the window while you're driving. You would put it over there, and then you'd chuck it out the window with your left hand with enough force to get it across the highway. And so, I mean, he's making a big deal about how, well, if you pick it up aggressively, then the light won't come on. So I guess the screen won't come on. So I guess he's implying that it was raised aggressively, but this is ludicrous. And thank you everyone that subscribed. Keep it going. With 2,000 of you here, I could get to 36,000 by the end of the show, but I won't talk about the subscriptions anymore for a while because that's not the thing.
But not always.
Not always.
Sometimes will, sometimes won't.
Correct.
According to the experiments that you conducted
Experiments. Whoa.
When did you do these experiments?
I started it Friday afternoon and into Saturday.
So you did these experiments this last weekend.
Correct.
You did not record any data.
I did not.
You just played with the phone and are coming here to express your observations.
That's correct.
Do you have the phone that you used to do these experiments with you?
Not with me.
Why would he?
Are you aware of how the phone Maggie's phone in this case, how it, when it was located, what its position was? Have you seen the photos?
I have.
And was it screen up?
It was screen up.
Okay. Would you agree then that it had to be thrown from a screen up position, because if it was screened down and you turned it over to throw it out, the screen would come on?
Of course not. It can tumble through the air.
So if the phone was screen down in the car,
yes,
and it ends up screen up over here, it has to turn over, right?
Yes.
At least one time. Yes, sir.
And do you, I guess, disagree with the previous testimony and demonstration that when you take the phone and turn it over, the screen comes on?
No, when you pick it up gently, the screen does come on.
We say pick it up. If you rotate it on that axis so that it's screen down to screen up, does the screen come on?
If I pick it up gently and rotate it, the screen comes on. If I pick it up aggressively, it does not.
And if it's facing you and rotates 90 degrees, does the screen come on?
Only if you do it gently. Again, if you do it aggressively.
How
it will not.
gently?
Yeah,
Did you measure any of these forces?
I did not.
You just threw the phone around in your office?
Absolutely.
He Absolutely. I just threw this around my office. He didn't even conduct these experiments outside where everything was. He didn't even, there was not a single thing that mimicked the conditions of what was allegedly happened. He had different operating system, which is going to function differently. He just threw it around the room a little bit, not in a big wide open space. He didn't do it outside. This is just ridiculous. I mean, what does this matter? What does his testimony matter? Because they said that after a certain time, the screen never lit up again. And so they're saying that you had to, if you frisbeed it out the window, it wouldn't light up. So that's what this guy's whole testimony is.
So you didn't record what you were doing, and you did not measure any data. Was this because you were afraid that you would have to disclose that data if you recorded it?
Of course not, no.
Do you normally do experiments and don't record any data or video, record anything?
It never crossed my mind to record video.
What an idiot.
Do you believe that you would have to have disclosed that data if you had recorded it?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I believe so, yes.
So the reason you didn't record data was that it would have to be produced, and then we could examine it and discover whether or not it was accurate.
No,
you
sir.
avoided that by not recording anything, correct?
No, sir. That's not correct.
Why didn't you record any data?
It did not cross my mind to video record my experiments. I just did the experiments to determine whether or not.
And you didn't occur to you to measure how fast you were moving the phone, maybe to even find out what is that threshold you claim where the phone goes from turning on to not turning on. Exactly when does that happen? You have no idea, do you?
No, sir. It would take me much longer to do these experiments to determine the exact speed and force required to turn the display on versus not.
Did you discover any, or did you attempt to locate any documentation regarding the raise to wake feature on the iPhone?
I did. I tried extensively. I reached out to several different forensic surface focus groups that I'm a part of, and we were not able to find any white papers on the subject.
So you were unable to find any actual data on it, so you resorted to throwing your phone around alone? Was anyone with you when you did this?
No, sir. I was alone in my office.
So you're alone in your...
And see, I'm sure if you asked, as a member of the Secret Service, I'm sure if you asked someone at Apple IT about these important bits of information, they may be willing to tell you. I mean, they may say, oh, it's proprietary. It's, part of our patent. We can't tell you. But, you could ask. He didn't even ask. And but he did go visit Apple's website. He'll get to that in just a quick second. And Isaac Bruce, Wholesome Gabagool Art says, hope hot female prosecutor does closing. Ooh la la. Talking about my Winona Ryder. Go for big guy 9/11. Hey, Vices, you should look up the David Cam murder trial, conviction appeal, and subsequent acquittal. Huge parallels between his cases and Alex. Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of this case, and I probably should look it up. It's crazy how little things like beyond a reasonable doubt and based on the evidence matter so little to the rest of YouTube. I just don't get that deal. So no peer review on his testing. They didn't have time. This guy was hired, as I understand it, like last weekend, like a few days ago, he was hired to do these experiments. This guy got paid serious jack for sitting in his office, chucking his phone. What a dumbass.
Your office, throwing the phone around, taking no measurements, recording nothing over the weekend, and then you come in here and testify as an expert as to what the phone will do.
That's correct.
And testify that it's different than what we've seen it do right here in this courtroom.
That's correct.
Have you ever done anything like this before? You mentioned testifying 6 times before. Was this your expert testimony in any other case?
My expert testimony in other cases was always about cell phone reports and the data contained therein. I've never actually done physical experimentation to come up with a realistic result.
This is what the prosecution has resorted to. This is the results of the prosecution. They're getting a guy who knows nothing about the engineering side of cell phones, who has testified in 5 or 6 other cases, I believe he said. And he has never, ever testified in court about anything that he's testifying about right now. In what realm of existence is this an expert? This is just... Yeah, KB says he was told to by the Attorney General, so he did. LMAO, yeah, that's pretty much it. This is, honest to God, this is one of the most ridiculous, if not the most ridiculous expert testimony I have ever heard in my entire life. Hand to God. Atlas Knife and Tool, so his testing was shit. Hell, knife check. Knife check, woohoo. And also eyeglass cleaner check. And before we jump right back into it again, Andrew Hansen says, if I remember correctly from statistics, a sample size of 10 would have a margin of error of like 40%. See, I was not a stat guy, so I'll have to take your word for it. Stats scare me. So, right.
So your previous experience was extracting data from cell phones. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Is that what you're trained to do?
Yes, sir.
The training that was listed, it was to extract data from a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
He's an expert on data.
Are you an engineer?
No, sir.
Do you have any certification in engineering?
No, sir.
Do you have any degree, academic qualifications in engineering?
No, sir.
Have you ever worked as an engineer?
No, sir.
You're trained in extracting data from the cell phone.
That's correct.
And when it comes to tossing it around and seeing how it moves, you don't know anything more than anyone else, do you?
No, sir.
Use his hands. This expert just said, he just testified under oath that he knows no more about how a phone works engineering wise than any other normal schmo on the planet. Again, in what realm of existence does that qualify you as an expert? He just literally said he has no more idea than anyone else how this phone works. But he's an expert on the stand testifying about how the phone works. This guy back here, he could have been the expert. This girl back here probably knows more about how phones work than him. Any one of these people could have been, even this old Civil War veteran guy back here, he could have been an expert testimony by an expert witness by those standards. I mean, listen to, and even the lawyer is bewildered out of his mind. Oh, dear God.
Around and seeing how it moves, you don't know anything more than anyone else, do you?
No, sir.
Fuck me.
So you had this.
He's like, what the fuck?
Your Honor, based on the previous answer, I would move to strike the expert opinion.
On what basis?
The witness just testified he has no expertise in this. That he just said he has no more knowledge about this than anyone else in the courtroom. That his expertise is in extracting data from the cell phone. And that this opinion is therefore outside of his expertise, and this is inadmissible opinion testimony.
Previously stipulated that he was an expert.
Yes, Your Honor, in extracting data from the cell phone, which was before we got to this testimony.
Says state.
Your Honor, this witness performed a series of tests. He's reporting on.
At least he's honest.
You know that. He's testified to that.
And he's expressed his opinion of what the phone will do in those series of tests. It's not an absolute opinion, but I think he can, his opinion of when the screen would light up is something he tested and something he can testify about.
Let me think further.
Your Honor, simply that when he was proffered as an expert before this testimony, it was in extracting data from the cell phone, not in engineering, electrical engineering, which is where he's gone now.
Objections overruled.
Judge, no. Yeah, and Judge has obviously not been listening. We've had some unbelievables. We've had some all caps people here expressing their disappointment with the judges. Yeah. The defense lawyer, he was flabbergasted by that. So, I mean, how bewildered am I? Even he didn't expect that bad of an answer. And then the judge like, overruled. You already stipulated he's an expert on something completely fucking different than what you're talking about right now. Yeah. He's not an expert on this. Oh, by the way, Mike Morrison has just gifted 20 Legal Vices memberships. If you're one of the amazingly lucky people from the 2,500 of you that are here now, 20 of you just got a Legal Vices membership gifted to you from Mike Morrison. If you were one of those lucky 20, give Mike your thanks. Mike, you're a generous man. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for letting people become members of the Legal Vices membership levels. Thank you. Deeply appreciate that.
So you just testified you have no more knowledge about engineering the iPhone than anyone here, correct?
I know more about how the iPhone works, but no, sir, I'm not an engineer.
You're not an engineer. When you said that the accelerometers are what trigger this feature, how do you know that?
That's from data that's on Apple's website.
So you found something on Raise the Wake that says that the accelerometers are what trigger this feature?
No, sir. That's the only thing that is capable of detecting motion on the phone besides GPS.
And you have no idea how much motion is required because you didn't measure, correct?
No, sir. I don't know the threshold.
Okay. You, this weekend, sat around your office by yourself, recording nothing, tossing the phone around here, and are now reporting those results as an expert in what?
In cell phone forensics. I understand how cell phones operate more than most people.
No, you don't. You just said you didn't.
Do you understand the electrical engineering? Do you have any background in that?
I am not an engineer, no, sir.
Do you know how the accelerometers in the iPhone work? Can you tell us?
Not exactly, no, sir.
No, not exactly.
But I know that they exist, and I know that's how the iPhone determines motion.
So there's an unknown device within the phone that detects motion in a way that you don't understand, and some amount of motion that you don't know how much because you didn't measure it does something that only you saw in your office this weekend. Is that correct?
No, I know what it is. It's the accelerometer. The accelerometer is what detects the motion, and that's what causes the iPhone to race to wake.
How does an accelerometer detect motion?
I'm not an engineer. I do not know how it detects motion. I just know that it does.
But, sir, you really haven't said anything you couldn't quickly find out on Google. Isn't that correct?
Probably, yes, sir.
So you have no expertise in this.
I have expertise in how cell phones work.
What do you mean by that? How cell phones work?
So I can tell you all about the knowledge C databases. I can tell you about the
database
ways iPhones are not iPhones. I can tell you the way some software is written, what kind of code is written in. I can tell you how data is stored on a cell phone, the programming that's involved with the iOS feature, and the different databases that are involved.
Can you tell us that if somebody was driving down the road, picked up a phone that was either on the seat or pulled it out of a pocket or something like that, and while continuing to drive, threw it out the window, that the screen would not come on if it landed face up?
I cannot tell you that it will not come on. I can tell you that it might not come on.
Because when you were alone throwing your phone around, you think it didn't come on sometimes.
See, this is the problem with this testimony. There's no notes. There's no records. There's no video. There's no report. Literally, this guy could be lying out of his ass. He could just be sitting back there going, yep, I'm doing some tests. Yep, oh, look at me. I'm throwing the phone around the room. Whew, working up a sweat, checking my phone. We have no way of knowing if he actually did a single goddamn test at all. at all. He has no evidence that he actually did what he is saying he did. And even if he did what he's saying he did, he has no evidence whatsoever to support a damn thing he said about the results of his scientific experiments, air quotes. This could be, we don't even know, this could be just an idiot walking off the street. Well, it is an idiot walking off the street, but I mean a normal idiot, not a Secret Service idiot walking in off the street. We have no way of knowing because he has no record of anything he did. I mean, how the prosecution is not just freaking ashamed of themselves is utterly, utterly beyond me. And Mike Morrison, who's been a member for 3 months of the Bent Halos and Broken Wings tier, that's the God tier. This is like saying you're a master of all whiskey distilleries because you take $100 shots. Exactly. Well, I hopefully know a little bit more than the average guy off the street about whiskey, but not much different than saying that, actually. Oh my God. All right. Let's rock this. This is getting out of control. It's like, this is the third time I've watched this, and I'm just getting more and more exasperated and picking up more and more ridiculous shit every time I watch it.
Objection sustained.
No further questions.
Anything further?
Just real quick. When Mr. Barber was asking about picking up a phone and then tossing it, about the razor weight, what Mr. Surgis demonstrated jury was a gentle pickup, correct?
That is correct.
You test a more violent pickup or a more aggressive pickup and then moving to a throwing motion, correct?
Yes, sir. I just picked it up and threw it.
We're talking Andrew Tate levels.
Based off of what you tested and you observed, the screen does not come on most of the time?
When you throw it like a Frisbee, it's most of the time. When you throw it end over end, it's more than half the time it will not come on.
All right.
More than, okay.
And Mr. Barber asked you several times whether you knew more than anybody else about these cell phones, correct?
Correct.
And in particular, in this instance, you do know more than most people because you performed a series of tests, correct?
Objection sustained.
Show
You
me one
performed
shred of proof he performed any tests.
That's correct.
Objection sustained.
What did you do this weekend?
This weekend, I performed multiple tests
All right,
on
looks like
device
court is
matching
going.
the same make and model as Maggie Murdaugh's to determine whether or not the
All right, hang on here. Let's see this here. We are in court. I don't know if it's live court, but it's court. So let's go give it a check out here. We will bring it up and see what's going on. Oh God, that guy! It's 2:00 in the morning, and my blood pressure is just like spiking right now because of that guy. That's just dumb, like literally just dumb. Law and crime. Law and crime. Bring us up live. All right. Share the screen. Boom. All right, we've still got no audio, but at least we're in court now, so that's a good thing. All right, while that's going on, we'll clear off. We've got a bunch of super chats here that just came through. Don't want to get behind on these because you guys are so freaking generous that I can't keep up with you some of the times. But I definitely don't want to miss anything. I think I've got everything marked and tagged. We'll just kind of check in here with my records to see. Yep. All right, let's read through these super chats. Flux says, I just threw my phone to the other side of my desk. I'm an expert now. Pay me hundreds of dollars an hour. Why not? God, just get in the grift. MS Krim says, methinks judge wants any conviction to be overturned on appeal. I don't know what he wants, but he doesn't want to make good rulings anymore. I mean, he's just throwing objectivity straight out the damn window. He's a total caricature of a stereotypical government employee, didn't care about doing his job, and doesn't even care he's being called out for it. clear. I can't add anything to that. I don't get it. This judge is biased and or paid off. Yeah, I don't think he's paid off. I mean, the guy's been doing this for a bajillion years. I don't think he's being paid off. Biased, yeah. Plain and simple, bias. I don't think there's any being paid off. Andrew Hansen, thank you so much for this super chat. Rank the ridiculousness of the following three experts. This guy, the medical examiner, and Dr. Spiegel from the Depp trial. Well, this guy's at the top of the idiot list. I would have to go medical examiner number 2 and Dr. Spiegel from the Depp trial number 3, because at least Dr. Spiegel was entertaining in his own sad, weird way. Brian, this guy would shove his head up a bull's rump to look for a T-bone steak and claim he's an expert butcher. Again, I hope you're not looking for an argument, because that pretty much sums it up. Oh my God. All right, well, we've got something going on here. Don't know exactly what it is, but I hope it's him telling people to get going. All right, I'm just kind of scrolling through things here quickly, playing catch up in chat. You guys are just freaking awesome, by the way. I hope you know that. Shane M., why didn't the defense cell phone expert testify about Alex Murdaugh's brain and why it wasn't capable of murder? Clearly, he could be an expert on that. Apparently, anybody can be an expert on anything in this courtroom. Man, that is weak. And Mike Morrison, a member for 3 months of the. How do you do 2 separate accounts? This is like saying you're a. Katie read that one. Yeah. How did we get all the way back down there? All righty. I'm just kind of making sure we got everything taken care of from an administrative point of view, which it seems we have. Who's Buster's looking intently around for the first time? Wonder what that's all about. What's going on? No idea. They're just standing around in court, whispering quietly amongst themselves at the bench, trying to figure out what's going on. And for those of you that are just joining, there's 2,900 of you here now. What's happening is Nick is busy doing some things. He's got some stuff to take care of. He should be here anytime between now and whenever he gets here. So I'm just kind of holding down the fort until he gets his grill fired up. Once he fires up the grill, gets things going, I'll turn this straight over to him. But I'm your Lorax now. So we get no audio. There's some more no audio going on. No, our Putlian is not doing closing arguments. Sorry. Where'd that chat go? He said, yes, Putin is doing closing. I'm sure of it. Corn Pope, no, it's Jim Griffin. Jim Griffin is doing the closing for the defense. Jeff needs sleep. Lorax needs no sleep. Best logic. My name is Brandon. Odd the AG does closings. What impact do you think his presence in the courtroom has on the judge? Well, they seem to be very good friends. I mean, at this point, he's just sort of ruling in his favor. I don't know if I don't think there's any pressure, but I mean, he certainly seems to like the AG. He likes everybody in the district attorney's office and everybody in this. This is weird. John Diaz, thank you so much. Just throwing in my tip as a thank you for keeping us covered, Vices. Well, thank you very much, John Diaz. It's deeply, deeply appreciated. Damn it, odds. Yep. Well, this is exciting, isn't it? We know they're here, and we get the law and crime guy playing with the camera, testing out his skills. Hey, Mike, donate more subscriptions and get Jeff to 36,000. This is why you don't always hire friends to represent you in a murder trial. I'd rather have hired a hotshot homicide lawyer. Well, Dick Harpootlian is a fairly hotshot death. He's like a death lawyer, like a defense lawyer. He's done, I believe he said 15 death penalty cases and a bunch of murder cases. So he's done a bunch of murder cases. And I like I said, I think they said that one of the talking heads said that he'd done 15 death penalty cases. So he's very good at his job. Plus he's a state senator. So, maybe they're hoping that carries some weight with people. But once chat, you guys are terrible. Once this gets underway, it's closing statements, and then it's over. I guess while we can do a little bit of a midstream, hopefully near end stream grift at this point. As I said, we have over 3,000 people here watching now, 1,824 likes. How are we doing on the like and subscribe poll? I crushed the like and subscribe button because 19% of you said because I always do. 20% of you said because I'm not a heartless monster. 22% of you said we need to get you to 35,000 subs. And 39% of you said you hit the like and subscribe button because the Lorax steps up when needed. Thank you so much for that. And through your absolute amazing generosity and willingness to subscribe to my humble little channel, we're now at 35,150. So we picked up 150 subs in the last hour. Bless all you guys for that. I do not take that for granted. You're absolutely amazing. Next stop is 50,000. I got 15,000 to go to get there, and my goal is to do it by July. So hey, thanks for that. I honest to God cannot thank you enough for the support that you guys have given me over the last how long have I been doing this YouTube stuff? 8 months, I think. Not 10 months. Just under 10 months. So, I mean, you guys are incredible. Thank you so much for that. Deeply, deeply appreciated. Always grateful for everything you do to support the channel. Enough of my little sob story and my little emotional moment with you guys. But you're just great. What we've got coming up tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern, I'll be doing my weekly Thursday O.J. Simpson trial. Oh, we've got people talking. No, we don't. False alarm. We'll be doing the O.J. Simpson at 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow with Chandler Remington. She joins me every Thursday now to do O.J. Then Friday, I got to keep all this straight in my head. Then I hate time zones. I really, really do. Being on the other side of the planet on a different day than everybody really makes my brain hurt. It's Wednesday for you guys now. Starting Wednesday morning. So Thursday morning. All right, that's what we got to do. Thursday morning, we'll be doing the Wisconsin versus Zachariah Taylor. Then that evening, we'll be doing O.J. Simpson. And then Friday morning, we'll be doing the Zachary Taylor murder trial again on my channel. And then Friday night, U.S. time, we'll be doing my monthly Fuck It Friday Griftathon, where we have a huge panel of guests that come on. It's just a random chat. All sorts of amazing people stop in as they have time. There's no set topic. We just let things roll. And I grift for $100 super chats or aggregates of $100. And I do shots of whiskey. For the $100 super chats, we're going to be doing a Macallan 21. And for the lesser aggregate super chats, we'll be doing a Maker's Mark, probably. Maybe a Maker's 46, which is kind of more middle shelf. But that's what we're going to be doing. And our guests, so far, the people that have agreed and said they would show up are Danny on Direct, Drex, Ian Runkle from Runkle of the Bailey, Meme Copium from Japan, Nicola Starov, the labor lawyer. We're going to have a Viking drink off. He says he's going to match me drink for drink. We'll see. Our very own Maud Flux, she'll be there. Steph, the altar nerd. Chandler Remington will be there. Rob from Lawn Lumber will be there. Ariadna Jacob will be there. Aussie Overlord, Law of Self-Defense. Hopefully it'll be Friday evening cocktail no tie Bronca who shows up. Potentially Criminal Sean will be there. And debuting on my channel, or gracing me with his exalted presence, however you look at it, is Camelot 331. And if you saw Camelot stream with Nick a couple of days ago, that was funny as hell. And there's a high likelihood of Fight Milk becoming involved in my drunken griftathon. And there's other people that haven't confirmed yet. There's other people I'm still reaching out to. Oh, and Steve Gosney. Steve Gosney will be there too. I forgot to add him to the list. So yeah, we've got an all-star cast lined up. So do not miss that Friday night.
You may bring the jury.
You may bring the jury. We are getting underway, folks. All right. Let's wait for the jury to come in now. As long as we're back in order, let me do something here. We'll send out a couple of invites. Steve must be lurking in chat because he just sent me an email. Don't forget your Bud Gauze for Friday. Never Gauze. And by the way, Steve, if you're listening, if you happen to want to join right now, please feel free. I just sent you a link right now for today's stream. If you have the ability to join, you're probably working like an industrious person that you are. I don't know where Joe is. I'm just getting ready to send a link to Andrew.
All right, thank you.
Murdoch closings are happening.
Let's wait till everyone gets settled.
Okay.
All right, welcome again, once again. Day number 27. And you have heard all of the testimony, received all of the evidence. You've visited the scene of the alleged crimes. And now it's time for closing arguments. First, by the state, Mr. Waters.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court.
All right. We're off to the races.
Good morning. It's been a long trial, hasn't it? On June 7th, 2021, at the Moselle property in Colleton County, Maggie Murdoch and Paul Murdoch were brutally and maliciously murdered at the kennels by Alec Murdoch.
All right, here we go.
Paul, as you know, suffered 2 shotgun blasts. Maggie suffered 5 blackout rifle wounds. And after an exhaustive investigation, there is only one person who had the motive, who had the means, who had the opportunity to commit these crimes, and also whose guilty conduct after these crimes betrays him. The defendant was the one person who was living a lie. The defendant is the person on which a storm was descending, and the defendant is a person where his own storm would actually mean consequences for Maggie and Paul, and consequences for those who trusted him. And that person is the defendant, Richard Alexander Murdoch. I know this has been a long trial because it's a complicated case. And I'm not going to talk forever, I promise. But I am going to try to distill this down for you. And the first thing I want to do is set the stage. And to set the stage, we have to understand a little bit about Alec Murdoch and who he was and who he is. He was a person of singular prominence and respect in this community. But he's also a person who's been able to avoid accountability for all of his life. While he was outwardly giving the illusion of wealth and a very lucrative law practice, some bad land deals and that sort of thing, exacerbated by the economic recession, led to some financial problems. And then he had some big cases in the early 2011, 2012. And all his partners, and you've heard testimony to this, thought that that had taken care of things. You've heard cases like the Thomas case and the Pinckney case and the Plyler case and the Badger case. But the evidence that you've heard shows that the defendant became so addicted and so dependent on a velocity of money that the millions of dollars in legal fees that he was receiving was not enough. And so he started to steal. And how did he steal? He stole by billing personal expenses to the firm. He stole by stealing from his own family. You heard the testimony about the check he stole from his brother Randy. But then the main ways were two schemes that he developed. And the first one was to get checks made out from the client trust account to Palmetto State Bank, to fast talk the staff and fast talk the clients with those disbursements, and then take it to Palmetto State Bank, where his buddy Russell Lafitte would convert those and use those to pay personal expenses. And each time, until the end, it worked because the client was also getting a big check. And they were walking out of there thinking that everything had been fine when it was not. But then in 2015, he opened up the fake Forge account. And then all he had to do was get disbursements paid out to the Forge account. And once he did that, he would convert those to his personal use. And to do that, though, he also had to fast talk staff and fast talk clients. And that scheme continued up until everything fell apart in the end. The other thing you have to understand is during this time when he's earning millions of dollars and stealing millions of dollars, he's also borrowing millions of dollars from wherever he can. The bank, his law partners, his father, and it still wasn't enough. And this slow burn was continuing and continuing until the boat crash happened in February of 2019. And that changed everything. That set in motion things that were going to happen because of the criminal charges related to that case, as well as the civil charges related to that case. And in the aftermath of the boat case, things changed. The pace of his stealing increased. In fact, that's when he stole the money from Tony Satterfield that you heard from. Ultimately stole about $4.5 million between the Satterfields and others. And unlike other cases, Tony Satterfield, who was the son of his longtime housekeeper, he took all the money, took every bit of it. And that was coming to a head as we move into the spring of 2021, because there had been some publicity, and you heard from Tony Satterfield that he was, the defendant reached out in the spring of 2021 because there had been publicity and saying, hey, I'm still working on the case. Everything's fine. I'm still working on the case. It's good. But the reality is the defendant didn't have that money to pay it back. And he had one saving grace, because as you've heard, they don't get paid until the end of the year. And his saving grace was the Ferris case, which they tried in December. They get the verdict and get paid in March. And that's when he convinces Chris Wilson to send those $792,000 of fees to him. But the problem is that only lasted for about 2 months. $792,000 only lasted for about 2 months. And then he's running out of money again. Meanwhile, you've heard in the boat case that Mark Tinsley was seeking to get a large personal recovery from Alec Murdoch of $10 million because he thought, as many people did, that he was wealthy and had a lot of money. And when they said he didn't, he filed a motion to compel. And you've heard testimony about whether or not that had been granted, but it doesn't change the fact that that's what Mark Tinsley was seeking to do. And that boat case hearing had been scheduled for June 10th. In May of 2021, as we move into June, that's when Alec's own paralegal got the expense check for the Ferris case, but not the fee check, and tried to raise that to Alec and couldn't get a straight answer, tried to raise it to Chris Wilson and couldn't get a straight answer, to his office. And so goes to Jeannie Seconder, and Jeannie Seconder goes to the partners, and they can't get an answer about that either. And they want an answer to that because they're worried, because Alec has been talking about structuring fees.
Here we go again, Steve. I wonder how many people are watching this.
And they're worried he may be trying to hide assets because of the boat case, and they don't want to be a part of that. All of these things are coming to a head, and his finances are falling apart. And you heard from the banker there. You heard where his finances were at on June 7th, 2021. And you saw what happened in the wake of that. Within a short period of time, he was negative $347,000. On June 7th, 2021, he was in the office. He was working on the boat case. working on those financial disclosures when Jeannie Seconder came in and confronted him about those fees that he no longer had and couldn't pay back. And on June 7th, 2021, and he tells this to Jeannie Seconder, his father, Randolph, is having a very difficult time. And while they might have said it was some positive news, the reality is that he was very, very sick. And he had always been someone that the defendant could go to, that he could borrow money from. And so that pressure is happening as well. And on June 7th, 2021, as all these pressures were mounting, the defendant killed Maggie and Paul. And how do we know that? We're going to talk in detail about that. But the timeline puts him there. The forensic timeline puts him there. The use of his family weapons corroborates that. And his lies and guilty actions afterwards confirms it. And we'll go over each of those in great detail. Before we get to that, though, I want to finish out, because in the wake of this, everything changes. All those things that were coming to a head immediately go away. It's a different world now. They're not asking about the Ferris fees anymore. And you heard testimony to that. Mark Tinsley doesn't believe the case is going to have the same value anymore because the sympathies of the case have changed after this tragedy. And you heard that. And who would better understand that than Alec Murdoch, who does the same work? The boat case hearing goes away. And everyone immediately rallies around Alec Murdoch. And it worked, because it allowed him to borrow $250,000 from Johnny Parker, his law partner, who of course wouldn't have loaned him that money if he knew what Alec was up to, and allowed him to go to Palmetto State Bank and get $350,000 in an off-the-books loan that hadn't even been applied for, and to send that money to Chris Wilson and convince Chris Wilson to pay another $192,000 of his own money, and to send an email to the firm that everything was okay. And that made it another month or so until Annette Griswold found that Ferris check in his office, and Jeannie Seconder looked up the forged accounts. What happened in the wake of that? What was the reaction of Alec Murdoch? Within a day of September 3rd of him being forced to resign, his buddy Chris Wilson is trying to see him, comes and sees him on September 4th and confronts him about what he's been doing. And then within 2 hours, the side of the road happens. And Alec is a victim again. When accountability was at his door, he was a victim again. And he told a extremely detailed lie and went so far as to draw a composite sketch with the police of this assailant. And the accountability that had arrived at his doorstep again, he tried again, tried to get it to go away, and it worked for a little while. People thought, oh my gosh, what's happened here? Should we be suspicious of Alec anymore? But this time it fell apart a little quicker because his own brother figured out that he was trying to buy drugs. And the case fell apart very quickly. This is the setup for what we look at and what's going on. And it seems like a story that's far removed from most people's experience, because it is. It is a different story like has never been seen before. But the reason is that he is a different man than the kind of stories that we've seen before. This is a different set of circumstances than we've seen before. And it's certainly easy to understand when you have a middle-aged, man who's outwardly successful, who has a strong family legacy, who has a prominence in the community and a reputation, but is living a lie. Is living a lie. And that leads to and can lead to those pressures being overwhelming.
Okay, everybody, Nick Regatta has just gone live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump all of you over into there. He's going back to the beginning of the closing arguments. So I can go to sleep and do my things. I'll join him over there a bit. Did he send you the link, Oz? If not, I'll do it.
Pressures mount.
You can surprise him.
Someone
all right, everybody, I'm going to shut this down now. Thank you all for being here. He should get automatically funneled over to Nick, and he's just a little bit behind where we are now. Thank you all so much for your generosity, your time, mods, chat, all the super chats, and all the subscribers. Love you all. Thank you very much. Let's go on over here while we have just a brief pause. Take care. We'll see you in a very, very short period of time. Let Nick know that it's a Legal Vices raid. And here we go. Don't forget to like and subscribe to me, please, on your way out the door. And take care.